the two different perspectives. So on the one side, we have what is highly digital, and then on the other side, we have our humanities. And what we want is for the two to merge. So anything artificial intelligence, natural language processing, things like your automatic translations and so on, need to come a little bit closer to what we are doing in the humanities. And then where we are now going to look at, for example, language patterns that we are trying to make meaning of, and then looking also maybe at our cultural insights, so that we end up with what we call digital humanities. So it is in the context of this definition that this paper is positioned. Now, a lot of you will assume that this is digital humanities. It looks nice, but it's not digital humanities. It's part of what digital humanities is. The problem that we are facing is that there's always the question of and then. So, digital humanities. Is it a new thing in Southern Africa? Is it a new thing in South Africa? Or are we just stuck? So in the presentation earlier today, the presenter was talking about how digital humanities is being introduced, how they held a workshop, how they're trying to include people. In another presentation, how they're trying to include the libraries in the digital humanities conversations. Now, we are trying to figure out whether this is a new thing that needs to be reintroduced every time, in every space, all the time. What is digital humanities? And just a quick anecdote from my own personal experiences. So when I was hired at Nelson Mandela University, I was hired as a digital humanities expert. So in one of the faculty board meetings, I was called to talk about what digital humanities is and introduce it in the faculty. So while I am busy trying to talk blah, 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 there's a hand raised. Sorry, Johannes, are you in the right faculty? Don't you think perhaps you should move your discussions elsewhere? Computer sciences maybe? And I thought, okay. So now you already have that resistance that's taking place because people, I think one of the presenters from earlier says, people are afraid of what they don't understand because they are not sure whether they can cope in this context of digital humanities and AI. They decide that they're just going to not get involved at all. So there's that whole thing, and the question is whether we should just keep introducing or give up. Jessica, how long are you going to introduce digital humanities?
Forever. I'm not going to stop, yes.
So another possibility is for us to just give up. I don't know who's going to take that one, I won't. But there are long-term investments in the country. I think one of the presenters earlier has already overviewed some of this, that we have the DASA summer schools, and we have Alet's Digi Methods, and there is Dr. Alet's school. We have DASA, and we have SAHUDA Colloquia. So of these events taking place and all the efforts put into introducing digital humanities, SAHUDA hosts one of the longest running projects in introducing digital humanities in South Africa. So they host their monthly colloquia. A number of institutions have attempted something like this. Mandela has, under my leadership. However, so far, it is SAHUDA that is steady and consistent in their colloquia. The rest of us, it's a one introduction here and there, and then we forget, and then we come back again a few years later. So my question was, looking at this monthly colloquia, this one time when I was deciding whether I should attend or not, and I wondered, what are we gaining from this colloquia? Why are we even attending? As a former presenter myself, I'm like, people were attending that, what did they gain from that? Should we continue the colloquia, Jessica? Or should we move on?
No.
So, in trying to figure out what is it that I have gained from the Colloquia, I thought, perhaps I could write a paper and talk about what the Colloquia actually does. And then I tried to look at Colloquia as transformative community building spaces, so reviewing literature on how these spaces are actually used to build different communities, and how the transformation can be traced and linked back to the continuous colloquia that are being held. And then I also looked at how it builds capacity. So you'll see in the later slides how I look at whether or not there is any form of capacity building from these different colloquia. So the colloquia are online, unfortunately. So in most of these, it is the presenter telling us what they do. The main focus is on especially their methodology, because we want to see what can we gain from the methods that they use for their research that we can also replicate in our own research, or maybe introduce to some extent. And then also trying to figure out, I was talking to a colleague earlier today saying, I am one of those people that are opposing the idea of African digital humanities. Yet I'm one of those people that are actually using the term the most. Because it doesn't have a theoretical basis. Every time you ask people, what is African digital humanities? It uses African data. Who said non-African digital humanities does not use African data? It uses our vernacular languages. How is that different? So how in Africa are we trying to frame this whole idea of digital humanities? So the paper also touches a lot on that, taken from the analysis therein. And then of course, looking also at the platform, the Colloquium, and not just at tools and resources, which is typical in the introduction of digital humanities. I used the South African digital humanities context using Sadila DH Colloquia. So I extracted from their website the titles, authors, and dates from 2020 October to August 2025, so about 5 years. And then using an analytical lens of colloquial sites of African digital humanities theory formation. And then I used a large language model based theme extraction to check what exactly are we getting from the titles. So I analyzed the titles, what are the titles about, what themes are we getting from those, who are the authors, and when are they presenting their research. So one professor from earlier was talking about how we need to be able to trace the time at which research is being done and what is trendy at the time. So the topics that were in 2020 were mostly focused on trying to manage the pandemic, and then moving on from that and introducing these digital methods of teaching and pedagogy, so focusing on digital pedagogy and so on. And then moving on from that, and then I also looked at the authors. Where are they from? Who are they? And what do they normally write about? So unfortunately, I'm not able to, because I've run out of time, I'm not able to take you through the different themes. But if you read the paper, I promise you it will be worth your while. Thank you so much.
Thank you.